Hey everyone. So I decided to redo my portfolio, and I want to just use the AI tools that are out there to kind of get it from the prompt through to production ready code. So that's the goal of this video, is just to do that in one take, just a bunch of prompt engineering, get it over to the UI, and then push it to GitHub, Vercel, and then get it live. So I currently have a portfolio that's, I think, semi decent, right? So I have my projects on the right hand side, big cards, big text. And then when you click on one, you see the whole case study, and then have an about section, right? And what I want to do with this portfolio is a bit different. I don't want anything to link out left or right, up or down. I just want it to be just a single page application. Hopefully just like a single viewport. You don't have to scroll, but we'll see how far we get with that. But we'll start by saying that we want to craft a single page application for a product design portfolio, right? So we'll start there. It's pretty wide, pretty broad, but I feel like Vercel understands a lot of these projects because a lot of us host on Vercel. So I think it can take some of those implications and come up with something. If not, we'll go back in and include some stuff. So it has a big, so this is already the opposite of what I want, right? Like it gave me a header that's 100% of the view height, and I'm just looking for it to be tiny so I can have enough space for everything else. So it looks like there's kind of like a tab structure, numbered, like pagination type of structure here with skills, and the about is in the bottom. So we might just make some drastic changes here. So we're going to say remove the header, right? Move the about me to the top. What else can we say? I don't like this pagination. We're going to say turn the featured projects into cards and include a section for side projects, right? Which is important. I don't think we need skills. Remove skills. So I'm going to say include the socials in the footer and remove the get in touch section. And then lastly is add a top navigation with my name and resume. So I didn't like the structure at all. I guess I could have been a bit more specific in the beginning, but once I see what it's doing, I can just move sections around, right? And the UI that it uses is actually called Shad CN. So this is Vercel's, I guess, UI kit, you can call it that, component library. So everything that they provide in terms of UI is going to look like this, right? So they have their own cards, their own click states, buttons, right? Everything like that. I actually want to turn everything into this Chakra UI kit, which is a cool kit that I found. I like the teal color that it's using. So we'll probably do that after, but for now we want to make sure we get the architecture correct. So this is a lot more like what I was thinking. It's a lot more bare bones. Like if you're looking at like award-winning websites, right? But it has the sections that I'm looking for. And actually, one section that I do want to add that I think would be another interesting challenge is an AI chatbot that resembles me and how I would respond to things. So if someone comes in and they ask me a question about like my Facebook project or Square or something like that, it can just respond how I would respond. And that's part of it being a single page application. There's less going on, but you can get a lot more out of it. So we're going to say add in an AI chatbot at the bottom to resemble my response, how I would respond to design questions. And then something I noticed too is I can actually consolidate these two sections. So I can say consolidate the featured and side projects into just one section, right? Into a single section called projects and separate those two with a tab structure. Right, so instead of me having featured and side, top and bottom, I can just have a projects section or a container, and then just like a sub tab, right, the tab structure, so I can just toggle between featured or design projects and then side projects. Oh, and by the way, so all this, you can see it's importing a bunch of stuff. This is all React. So that means if we do want to edit it further, we kind of either have to bring it over to a code editor that can help us do that, like GitHub Copilot or Cursor or something, or we just have to know how to tweak it ourselves, right? So that's one thing is V0 kind of turns everything into React project. You can see it's TSX. So that's potentially one downside if you don't really understand, what you're doing there. But there are a bunch of free tools. Like we're going to try to use Cursor to just continue prompt engineering so it understands what I want the React code to do, and then go from there. Okay, so we have an about. So this is more like what I was talking about, right? It's featured in the side projects, and then chat. So, okay, so obviously it doesn't work, but this is more or less the structure I was going for. And I have to assume that it's already going to be responsive just based on the component library that Vercel has. So I'm going to say that's good enough. What I need to do is take it over to Cursor and then apply some of these stylings and components, right, for Chakra UI. So let's do that. Let's actually create a new folder, and we're going to just stash this in there. So I'm going to go to my terminal. So I'm going to just cd into my desktop, and I'm going to grab this whole code base right here. So it's grabbing all of this and some, because something with this React file is that there's a ton of dependencies, right, that come with that. So I'm going to just copy and paste it here. So it's going to create that Next.js project. I'm going to say yes. And I already have a portfolio, so I'm going to call this a V2 portfolio. Something went wrong. Let's see, what could that be? Let's just try it again. Maybe it was just the code block. Yes, V2 portfolio. Oh, okay. So not sure what that was, but I just had to do it again. So it's creating that project. I just have to choose a couple configurations. And once it's done, I want to use the Cursor terminal, right? I don't want to use this little one anymore. So I'm actually going to exit out of this. I'm going to open up Cursor. And I should have a V2 portfolio, which is right there. And I have a portfolio.tsx, which is exactly what we were looking at. So this is the components and everything that we looked at. But we should have another one called page, which is the landing page of the React file, right? So when someone lands here, it looks like as soon as people land here, it's going to redirect them over to the portfolio TSX, which is what we want because this is where all the content is. But let's just see if it does that. So we have to run it. Just make sure that it runs locally, which it looks like it does, which is good. I think at this point, we don't need the prompt engineering on V0. We can actually start doing that on Cursor. So let's just make sure that it's still responsive. Obviously the images are broken, but we can fix that in a second. So everything looks pretty good. I think what I need to do now is I need to do two things. I need to install Chakra UI. That way it kind of styles this typography, grid layout, everything with Chakra. And then obviously bring in the images. That way it doesn't look broken. So a cool thing about Cursor is I can actually, so I could import this myself, right? I can install this by copying and pasting it. I could bring this over, or I can come here and say, I'm looking to style my project using Chakra UI. And I think it would understand the implications of one, me not having it, so I have to install it, and then two is wrapping everything with it. So it would give me the code base, the new code base that has the Chakra components. So it looks like, oh, first of all, I need to install it, right? So I'm going to just hit run to install the Chakra React. And with it comes a ton of dependencies and components and a lot of stuff that happens there. So I have 141 new packages with that. And so it looks like the second thing I have to do is modify my layout, which is this folder. And this just has, you know, it looks like it has my fonts, my global CSS, and I need to add something for the Chakra provider, right, which is this right here. And that should do it for the dependencies. After that is just like the actual UI. Let's just run this just to make sure before we add any UI, let's just make sure that it does work. If it throws me an error before doing any UI stuff, like this, like we know something is wrong with the actual installation. So it looks like we're exporting metadata. So it looks like we shouldn't be using use client here. We'll see if that's the case. So we're gonna run it again. And if that fixes it, that's good news, because then, yeah, then it's already using Chakra to some extent. Like it's still not what we're looking for. And now the tab structure doesn't work. So a ton of things are broken, but it works, right? We don't get that error anymore. So so something I'm gonna do just for the sake of time is I'm gonna apply everything, right? So if I go over to the portfolio.csx, something you should do is just look to see what you need to apply. Like if it's just an about section, you might just copy and paste over a couple lines. But for the sake of this, I do want to test just cursor a little bit too, is to see how much it understands what I need to change, what I don't need to change. One negative is if you hit apply and it gets rid of stuff that you do need, like this red part here, it's going to get rid of all this. You're kind of out of luck, because if you don't catch it, it's getting rid of all that, but it's adding in the stuff that you asked. So there's pros and cons to that. But that's why you should check, you know, every now and then, is to see if it's doing exactly what you wanted it to do. So tabs are not defined. So it looks like we added tabs in our UI, but it looks like we haven't imported the tabs. So I'm actually going to go over to the tab structure and then just import one of these. That's one of them. This is pretty cool. I kind of like this one, so I'm going to, actually this one right here. I'm actually just going to copy and paste the code, and then it should know that I don't have tabs installed, it looks like. I want to use this tab structure. And then it would import the tabs, and then it would use it in the UI. So that's the goal. So let's just see while it's doing that. Here we go. So you see how it says tabs, tab list. So it's going to install those or import those components, and then it's going to use them. So that's what we're doing here. So let's apply that. Looks like we got another error. It might be for the cards. So now we have to go back to the card section and actually use, you know, one of Chakra's actual cards, not just something out of the blue. So let's just quickly look at the cards that they have. So these are more like e-commerce. This one's okay. That's very social media like. So I do want an image. So it's like in between this and this. So I'll probably just use this one for now. Use this card structure for the projects. And it could, you know, be as easy as what I'm doing now, is grabbing existing code snippets, just copying and pasting it here and telling it, hey, I want to use this in place of what I currently have. And I think we're at the point where it understands what that means, and it'll replace old code with a new code. And if there's dependencies, it'll install them, or it'll import certain components. So I think we're at that point now where it understands all that. So let's see. Card content not defined, 171. So I could go down to 171 and see what that is. So card content not defined. So I'm going to say inline 171, card content is not defined. And so we'll see, it might just have to bring in a couple more imports or functions, whatever it needs. Okay, so it brought in actually we already have the card content here. Let's see. What did it bring in this time around? Oh, I see. So actually card content is not a real value. It's called card body. So that's what we're doing here. That should do it. Okay, so it looks like it turned dark, which I think that means is that there's a dark mode variable here. Let's see. So maybe here. Okay, so I think this is good because it by default changed everything to dark mode, which made me realize that I can probably just bring that in myself. So I'm gonna say apply the light mode and dark mode components variant of each component, and include a, I'm gonna say light mode button, light mode next to the resume button so people can toggle between dark mode and light mode. I know there's a lot of redundancy there, but I feel like the more you talk about those concepts, light mode, dark mode, it'll understand the things that you're looking for. So that actually, I'm glad that happened because I wouldn't have installed, dark mode. So I'm gonna see if it can, by default, give me light mode and then give me a little like moon or sun so I can toggle back to dark mode. So we'll see if it does that. And this is all, one giant experiment just to see if we can just use words, right, to get where we need to get to. You can see I haven't really written any code. I just had to supervise a couple lines here and there, but nothing really major. Okay, nice. So it brought in the moon button. I feel like it's dark mode by default, which I can live with that. So we have the cards. So the side projects don't have the button, which honestly, I don't think we need them to begin with. I don't want to link out to anything like I mentioned earlier. And so we just have to bring in images and then right now, I don't know if I actually want to get the AI chatbot to work because that would require me to bring in one of my API keys, and I don't want to do that, on the video. So I might just create the TypeScript file for this, and then I'll just do this offline, but we have the section for it. And so all we need to do now is obviously fix some of the copy, include the images. Let's see, what else do we need to do? So let's do images first. So we need to create a folder. I'd like to include my own images instead of these placeholders. I know I need to create a public folder and then just store all the images in there, but I want to know like what the pathing should be. So where should I include my public folder? And I'm actually going to screenshot all this so it understands the file structure that I'm using, because there's folders nested in folders, and then there's files nested within those folders. So I want to know the pathing, because you can see here, like there's a / and then placeholder.image. This obviously it doesn't work because we don't have any / placeholder images or any images at all. But we want to make sure that we include, you can see that we're going to include it within the root file, it looks like. So what that means is I can just go back up here, create a new folder, call it public. And I'm actually going to do this within the desktop. It's much easier to just drag and drop in the desktop. So let's see. Where is it? Public. Okay, that's public. Okay, I just dropped a bunch of folders in there. So let's see if it works. Okay, perfect. So these are all the icons for my projects. Side projects, my headshot. So let's actually, after creating the public folder and adding your images, you can reference them in your code like this. Okay, automatically serves images. Remember to update all the image references in your portfolio. Okay, so I'm going to just say, here, I'm going to just copy and paste this again. And we're going to say update the pathing of my images. And I'm actually going to define them. So headshot is my about me image. I'm going to say Facebook, Square, and Slide are my featured projects. And then pre-pitch, I have New Careers and Audio Nexus are my side projects. So we'll see how far it gets into the pathing of all this. My hope is that it understands, I don't really care about the order, but it understands that those three specifically are featured and then the other three are side. So let's actually hit apply. And then we'll just go to the site, test it. If it doesn't work, we'll just Control-Z it. And there you go. So there's my image, my featured projects, which is right on, my side projects, which is also right on. And then what else are we missing? Obviously, Jane Doe is not me. So I need to update the resume button, the Jane Doe stuff, just this about me, and then that should be good enough. I should be able to push that to GitHub and then to Vercel. So let's just make those changes. So the resume button and then the Jane Doe stuff. So update the resume to include proper chakra in dark mode and light mode. At this point, it understands where to look for this stuff. So it's probably going to import a certain button style, things like that, and then it's going to use it. So just like how I did up here, actually we already have button, so it might just use that to update the resume button. And while it does that, I'm going to look for all the Jane Does. So headshot. This is just alt text, but it's important to also replace those. And then I should have one more in the footer. And while that was happening, it gave me the button that I want, so I'm going to apply it. I'm going to just check it out. I don't think so. Let me undo that. I don't think that's right. So move. Because the resume buttons that I saw that I was looking at, or sorry, the buttons that I was looking at were teal, which is why I liked this this UI kit to begin with, like this, right? So let me just, yeah, so this is what I liked. So I just want to use this right here, and I'm gonna say use the solid button to replace our current resume button. I'm not going to mention dark mode or light mode. I think it would understand what that means because we already have that defined as a function. And so while it's doing that, let's just double check. So we have feature projects, side projects, So the AI assistant, which I'm going to fix, I might just drop maybe some custom social links. And then let's also make sure that nothing got messed up in the responsive layout. Okay, so that's pretty good for me. Let's just update the resume button. So this is the one that I was referring to. That's what I thought it was going to be. And then, you know what? So nothing else works, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this to GitHub and then Vercel, just so we can see what it looks like. And just to make sure that there's no other dependencies or anything that's not working, which it looks like we're good. So I'm actually going to go over to GitHub. I'm going to call this V2 portfolio. Okay, so as a quick setup, I can just copy and paste this over to the terminal. It'll create that the first commit, and then it'll update it right as the main branch, and that should be the end of it. But I want to actually describe it here, so I can just say I created a new repo on my GitHub called V2 portfolio. Please commit all these changes to my GitHub. And then just to be safe, I'm going to include my username, because sometimes when you push it, it includes that URL, and then sometimes it'll just say like Jane/Jane Doe. So you want to make sure that includes your actual information. Okay, so let's actually just copy and paste these one at a time. So we have to initialize it. We have to make sure we add everything. So this is adding all the code, right? We have to add a comment, right? So this is my first comment. So set up the portfolio using Chakra UI and dark mode, which is perfect. Okay, so we have to just link the repository. And then lastly is just push it to the, I'm going to call it main. I don't think I've ever called it master. Okay, so we pushed it to main. Now if I refresh, it should have all the components, right? All the app stuff, all the dependencies, the JSON, right? A short README. So what I'm going to do now is actually just go over to Vercel, because Vercel should have an updated version of my GitHub now. See how it says just now? I have a V2 portfolio. So I'm going to just call it V2 portfolio. And now this is Vercel, so we're actually deploying this live. And fingers crossed there's no errors. If there aren't any, we're going to get some like a free URL, right? And then we can just replace it with our existing URL, and then that'll be our site, right? So this is just to show how fast we can go from a couple prompts in the beginning to, so the code editor, just a couple fixes that are also more prompts, and then straight into GitHub, which by default goes straight into Vercel. So that's a very linear path. And yeah, this was just to see how fast we can get that done. So hopefully we can get it done in under 30 minutes, it looks like. And after the video, I'm going to go in and actually create the TypeScript file with the real Perplexity API, or maybe my Claude API, to get the chatbot working. So let's see, there's a couple things. Simple grid is defined whenever used. Active project is assigned but never used. So it looks like we have a bunch of unused stuff. So I'm going to say I am pushing to Vercel, but looks like we have a lot of unused variables. And then, so these errors down here, the @ symbol and then APOS, this just says that it's using an apostrophe where you shouldn't use an apostrophe. And it might be dangerous to tell it to fix everything at the same time because it might end up breaking stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's address these one by one. Let's clean up the code. So they removed a simple grid, active project, removed input, replaced single quotes, and then removed set active project. So we're going to just hit apply. We're going to run it locally just to make sure that it still works. But if it looks the same and it just fixed those minor things, we'll push it again. So we'll update it to GitHub and then to Vercel. So for the input.tsx file, if it's not being used, you can remove it entirely. Do I even have? I don't think I have an input.tsx. Oh, I do. And it looks like it's calling it for the input. If you need, you can modify it like this. This removes empty interface. So let's just apply it just for the sake of speed, which isn't necessarily the best thing, but we're going to run it again locally. Make sure that it works. Again, nothing is functional. We have this awkward black outline everywhere now. So it looks like something went wrong. So we do have to go back in and then say, use the proper card, the card component, and then the tab component. So we're going to grab the card component again, which was this one. And I'm going to say, use the proper card component in my projects section, and then use the proper tab structure. And then I'm going to include one by one. And then the tab structure was tabs. I think it was this one. So we'll see if it uses it. If it brings it in, if it imports it but doesn't use it, we're gonna have to just find that out ourselves. Let's see. I'll update the project section for your portfolio components. But if it does look good, and then if there's no errors or anything, then I am definitely going to push again just to see, what it says. And so I see some apostrophes here, although I don't think it matters here because these are, this is a string. But what you can do is you can also say, so instead of that's, you can just say that is, right? Or I would. So that eliminates any apostrophes as well. So let's just apply this. We'll check if it works with the right stylings, and then we'll fix these apostrophes, and then we'll push again. And that should do it, but we'll see. Okay. Okay, so that should be fine. At least it got rid of those ugly black lines that it had. I might have to continue, just tweaking the UI a little bit, but it looks like we're not getting any errors or anything, so that should be good. Let me just fix those apostrophes, and then I'll push one more time. So I have I would Okay. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to be more diligent with these apostrophes, but let's just push these changes to GitHub. And then indirectly, it'll just push to Vercel too. Okay, so let's just add everything to staging. we'll just have to comment what we did that's different, right? So we just included the those cards and the tab structure. We're going to push to main, which is where we're pushing. If your define branch is master, yeah, it's not master, so that should be good. Let's refresh. There should be an update like 1 second ago, right there. So our project is pending on Vercel, and we're just hoping that it works, and there's no more blockers or any apostrophes, things like that, just minor things, because like if you're not diligent, you have to go back and then change 1 or 2 things, push it back up, see if it's working. But yeah, I mean, after this deployment, debugging, things like that, like we should be good to go. But you can see the process beforehand, the prompt engineering on Vercel, the further prompt engineering on Cursor, and then just applying any UI really that you're looking for is very doable. Okay, so it looks like at this point, all the errors are just apostrophe stuff. And then an interface declaring no members is equivalent to super type. So I'm going to just say debug these errors instead of using that. Just say I have or I will. And then we'll see if it debugs the other one just by default. But this is honestly what takes the longest with any real project, right? It's just debugging. Okay, so it looks like it caught on. So that is an interesting design challenge. I have worked on similar projects, right? So that is good. And then the input.tsx, we have to remove the interface. So we'll do that. So let's first fix the portfolio thing. And then we'll go to input. So we got to remove that whole HTML attribute. And then again, we're going to push these changes to GitHub. And I like just commenting it here because it'll just give you the commit comment that you should write in, right? So this one, for example, this one is update text in portfolio and remove empty interface, and then push it up. We should see an update now somewhere, and then just watch that very closely just to make sure everything runs correctly. And I think after this, what I'm going to do is just, go into all the components, see what I want to use, what I don't want to use. Like maybe I want some tooltips or popovers, right? I can go in and change any of that. I can highlight stuff, which I might do to the bio or something. And then I have to style the AI chatbot, which shouldn't take very long. But you can see how, debugging aside, we got about, I want to say 85% of the way there with the portfolio, just using prompts. And we're not using any no-code thing, Webflow, Framer, Figma, things like that. So it looks like the last 3 errors are really just more of these apostrophe things. So let's bring that over. We've got a few more errors. Oh, whoops, I didn't apply it to the right file. So the one thing you need to do too is be on the right file when you make a comment, because it'll apply that comment to that file. In the chatbot, hi, I am Jane's assistant. Okay, so let's go to chat message. So here's one, I am. So that knocks one out. We need to do 2 more, it looks like. So chat submit. So I don't see any here. So I think we should be good. There. So let's see what's changing about this. So chat messages, role assistant, SJane, I would say generate response. I'm gonna apply it, but nothing should really change here. Yeah. And then this, so chat with Jane's assistant. I'm gonna just say chat with Martin AI. Just find ways around those apostrophes. And that should get rid of all the apostrophes. Run build. Okay, so those were really the only true errors. So we're gonna push up to GitHub once more. And these should just be apostrophe commits. And you can't really Control F, find an apostrophe, because that's kind of all we use, right, as a syntax. So we're going to copy this. So the commit comment is just fixing the ES lint errors. Push it to main. Watch the update change. And then we did fix 3 apostrophes, so I'm pretty sure that that's it. And once we're good, we should see 3 blue checkboxes, and that means we're good to go. Yeah, so I'm gonna just make the changes that I mentioned, then I'll bring in the URL, and then this, honestly, this right here will just be my portfolio. And maybe I'll upload this video and then just like put it somewhere here, how this portfolio was created or something like that, like very meta, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how long this is too. Like if debugging takes a couple of hours, then maybe not. Okay, so just a few more lines. 97, 102. (97, 102). Push to GitHub once more. Okay, so I manually did those last 2. I'm not even going to ask, just so I know that it's correct. So we'll add. We'll push. And I'm fairly positive that that's it because I just did that myself. So we'll just wait a few seconds. And yeah, I'm hoping Chakra has some icons that I can use. There's something I can do here. Like I probably need to make this text just span or fill the whole row. If they're using Flexbox, I have to see what they're using for this. And then yeah, we'll see what else, but anything else would be very minor at that point. Okay, it looks like we got 3 blue checkboxes, which means that we have a site now that we can visit. And this is it. This is our URL on Vercel. I just have to swap it with mine, but I mean, other than that, we should be good to go. So we have a resume that links out to nothing. We have a dark mode, light mode. We have projects, right? 3 featured and 3 side with the right images. And then more importantly, a chatbot that needs to work, right? So I'll do the TypeScript stuff after, but I just wanted to show that we can actually get to this point very quickly now. I mean, debugging aside, it probably took about 20 minutes. And yeah, so this is it. I hope you guys, saw some behind the scenes as to how I use AI. Maybe you learned a thing or two about some of these tools. But yeah, thanks for watching.